What's up, Group Coach Nation? Good to see everybody. I am super stoked about this conversation, and you'll see why, because we often don't get enough support. I have Sarah with me today. Sarah Bramall. Am I saying that correct, Sarah?
That's right, Sarah Bramall, yeah.
Yeah. Sarah, thank you for joining us. The reason you know this, Sarah, but the reason for everybody else that I've asked you to join us is because we as coaches don't get the support we need frequently. We hear an enormous amount of stuff, a lot of hard stuff. We handle everybody else's burdens. This is really a self-help conversation today. And and I know for me personally, at the end of a coaching day, and we teach a lot of groups, as y'all know, Group Coach Nation, that's what we do, masterminds and groups. You hear a lot of stuff and you help people process a lot of stuff. And you just kind of pack that away and it just stays there. And sometimes it even comes up with like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I handled that session well. I'm not sure how to go back to the group and bring the resources they need next time. You need that outside voice. So Sarah is an expert at coaching supervision. That's what she does for a living, and supervising professional coaches. Sarah, thank you for being here and taking the time to help the helpers.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
It's really great. Okay, so take us from like the beginning. Here's a scenario, and then we'll branch off from there.
Sure.
In a group coaching session, let's say there's 10 clients on a Zoom call, and it's a really tough day for a couple of clients. There's tears, there's real stuff. The whole group is wanting to support and help, but the whole group's a little bit awkward about how do I do that? And then as a coach, it's kind of awkward, like, okay, I got to make sure I meet this person's needs, but I also have to make sure I can pivot and help everybody else. I walk away, the day's been super stressful. I'm doubting, did I handle that right? That that's a day in the life of a coach sometimes, right?
100%. And what happens then is that we take on that energy, we take on that mental load, as you said. And that happens when we're coaching one-to-one, when we're coaching individuals. Stuff comes up and we can start to think, oh goodness, like, did I handle that in the way that I wanted to handle it? And we get caught in that loop in our head of kind of ruminating or going back over, like, oh, did I quite get that right? And of course, we can't talk to anybody else about it because the coaching relationship is confidential. So that happens in a one-to-one context. But as you know, Chris, in a group context, that's magnified, that's exacerbated, because you're dealing not just with the person who's being coached, but you're dealing with the dynamics of everybody else in the room as well. Did that person get the support that they needed? How did I contract with that person, and how did I contract with the group to ensure that they accessed the support that they needed? There's lots of questions that come up for us, and that's quite draining. We're human beings, we're all here because we're wired to serve, but it's quite draining. It's quite a lot for us to carry, and the impact of that lot for us to carry over time can really be quite heavy.
Okay, so let's take this one step at a time. How do we like step back from that? Detox is the word I'm thinking. I don't know another way, a clearer way to say it. It's not that somebody's handling us toxic material, but we have all that stuff from others that we carry with us. It's 3 in the afternoon. I'm done coaching. What do I do?
Yeah, so as you know, as we all know, as coaches, part of our professional practice is reflective practice. And no matter how experienced we are, we all benefit from reflective practice ourselves, from that, as you said, taking a step back and trying to look from a kind of bird's eye view, like what went well in that conversation and what could have been better, what could I enhance going forwards. And we can do that for ourselves. It does require discipline to deliver a session and then go, right, okay, now I'm going to do my reflection and think about how this could be better for next time. And the other challenge around doing self-reflection is we only see through our own lens. And especially if our kind of monkey mind is going, oh, but Sarah, you didn't get that bit right. That's all the brain wants to focus on. Whereas when you have the opportunity to reflect with another professional who's not there to make a judgment of you, but just to support that process of reflection, that really obviously makes a difference to the quality of that reflection. And it's in that quality reflective practice that we enhance and we continue to grow and progress as coaches.
Very helpful. Okay, so you help coaches do this, all these practices to get where they need to get. What does a well-run group look like to you? Like when you're facilitating a group of coaches, people like you and me and everybody watching right now, when you're facilitating that group, what are you doing to really help us navigate these things and step up and grow as the coaches we should be?
Yeah, really great question. So, again, in a coaching relationship, the contracting about that relationship is super important. How we contract and co-create the relationship at the beginning, where we have the opportunity to ask for what we need from the group. But as the group comes together, and then we work together over a period of time, revisiting that contracting as well, so that we all have the opportunity to, as professionals, to say, okay, what's working really well here? And what could we do to make this experience even better? So contracting is I'd say it's probably 80% of the piece. I think the other thing is it's having the courage to name or to call out when things aren't going, when we have a sense that maybe there's a dynamic that's a bit off, that's maybe preventing somebody from sharing or preventing somebody from making progress. Our instinct sometimes as human beings can be just to kind of sweep it under the carpet and hope that nobody notices. But actually, when we're in group and we're doing that effectively and we've got that professionalism and contracting, having a skilled facilitator who can say, okay, I'm noticing something going on here, let's put it on the table, let's talk about it. And that's one of the things that we can do in the supervision space, because we've got that agreement to work together to have that level of transparency.
That's so key, and it makes sense in the space you're in because you're there to have those transparent conversations. How do I take that and bring that contracting, as you call it, into the groups that any of us are leading? How do we let's say we already have group established. How do we bring that, hey, group, let's step up into this new way of thinking and being open? How do I have that conversation with my group?
So the first question that I ask when I'm facilitating any groups is I ask individuals to share their response to the question, what do I need to feel safe? Now, nobody can make us feel safe, but we can co-contract together about how we create a safe space together in which we can look after our own resources, look after our own psychological safety, and do what we can to take care of each other as well. Now, that's again not to say things come up, things can trigger us. Sometimes we do have to just be responsible for looking after ourselves, but we can do the best that we can to contract around what we need in order to be able to express ourselves openly, to listen openly. And another question that I always ask somebody who's in the supervision seat, but I would also ask this in a coaching context, is what would you like from me today? And I ask that question in the context of the level of challenge that somebody's looking for, or in the level of support that they're looking for. Because as you know yourself, Chris, sometimes we show up to coaching spaces, to supervision spaces, and we're like, I'm here today for the challenge, bring it on. And then the next day we might be like, oh, do you know, I'm feeling really vulnerable today, actually. And what I really need is I really need some affirmation. I really need some cheerleading today. So we're never the same person from one day to the next, probably even from 1 hour to the next. So we always need that opportunity to ask for what we need.
Oh, I love that. That's so smart. Can you, that really is like our Jill and I, my wife's name is Jill. Jill and I's marriage therapist told us over the years, like when you're showing up, like I have something to talk about, to tell the other partner, here's the person I need you to be. I just listen right now, or I would love some constructive feedback or whatever. So that makes a lot of sense. Cool. All right. So tell me the difference between coaching and supervision.
It's a really great question. So, as you know, in coaching, we're looking at where we are and where we want to be and how we're going to move from where we are to where we want to be, navigating any of the obstacles that might be getting in our way. In supervision, we're looking at where we are, and often what we're doing is we're staying there and unraveling the layers beneath the surface. So this is what's going on. Let's look deeper. Let's look deeper. What's going on underneath that? What else am I noticing about this experience, and what is that teaching me? Now, in a supervision conversation, there may then be a commitment to, okay, well, as a result of this conversation, I'm going to go away and I'm going to do this, or I'm going to take this action or have this conversation, but not necessarily so. So whereas coaching is future focused, supervision is very much about being in the moment, creating stillness, really slowing down so that we have the space to just look at what is going on for us.
So interesting. It's so close to therapy.
It is closer to therapy. It has a more therapeutic kind of element to it than coaching. Yeah, in coaching we're very clear, aren't we, about the parameters in which we operate as coach. Supervision has a more therapeutic kind of nature, but again, that's why it's really important that it's facilitated by a trained and skilled supervisor who again knows where those lines are, essentially, so that the supervisor knows like when they're out of their depth, essentially, and where it is relevant, as you say, to then make that referral to therapy.
Okay, my next question is how did you get into this and get trained? But before I do that, for those of you listening, I keep flashing this on the screen, but for those of you listening to the podcast version of this, Sarah's website is thecoachingcatalyst.com. Thecoachingcatalyst.com. It's on the screen for those of you watching, but if you're out there shopping or driving and listening, that's it. We'll put it in the show notes and all this stuff, so we got you covered. Sarah, how did you land here? Because this is such a specialized niche, and everybody here at Coach Nation's heard me tell. I just love a good niche, like freaking figure out what you're a specialist at and get into it. How did you figure this one out?
Yeah, thank you. So my background, Chris, is I was in teaching before I came into coaching. So I was in secondary or high school education for 18 years before I went into coaching. And so when I qualified as a coach, I knew straight away that I needed to be in supervision, because when I was in teaching, if I had any concerns about any of my students or anything at all, really, I always had somewhere safe to take those concerns to, in a confidential environment. And then as soon as I started coaching, I thought, I really need that support in my coaching. So I signed up for supervision straight away. And I was very fortunate to be held by a very skilled, very experienced supervisor. And I worked with her over many years, actually. And I now work with, different supervisors, and I learned so much from them. And I guess, again, just like coaching, when you kind of see somebody else coaching and you think, oh, that's really amazing. Like, maybe I could do that. I guess for me, over time, I started to think, I really enjoy this supervision space. I really enjoy one-to-one supervision, for the kind of intimacy, really, of that space and the space that an individual is offered. But I also really enjoy group, because I really enjoy the coming together of different professionals, different niches, different backgrounds, and the sort of shared support and shared experience of that group. So yeah, I feel very blessed to be where I am.
That's so cool. So do you have, again, your website, thecoachingcatalyst.com, do you have space in your groups for like all of us, just the average coach out there, or is it just corporates, or like who do you work with?
Really good question. Thank you for asking. So we have a service which is open to individual coaches, and we do focus on serving what we call professional coaches. We know the coaching industry is unregulated, so people who have been through a professional process of qualification, and we have groups available for individuals regardless of your level of experience. So some coaches come to us when they're still in training, some when they're recently qualified, some when they've been practicing for many years. So that's one aspect of our service. And then we do also offer supervision to organizations who have pools of internal coaches, again, so that within those organizations, there's somebody with an outside perspective who's able to hold that space and to ask questions and to offer a different perspective from the people who were immersed within that organization.
Very cool, insightful. Okay, let me ask you one last question. I hear the term burnout, exhausted, overwhelmed, all that stuff quite frequently.
Mm.
In our coaching staff does as well. Olivia, you met Olivia not too long ago, our senior coach. What's your advice to the listener who's saying, I just feel burnout. I'm like giving my heart and soul to the people I'm serving, and yeah, it pays the bills, but how do I start to recover? Some people think I just need a long weekend, but that's just come on. We all know you're just going to get burnout again next Monday. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, supervision's not all of the answer, but supervision is certainly part of the answer, because I find myself, being both in one-to-one supervision and group supervision, that when stuff comes up for me that I think, oh, I can't talk to my husband about this, I can't talk to my friends about this, where am I going to take this? I can say to myself, it's okay, I'm going to park this until next week or whenever I see my supervisor, and I've got somewhere safe to take that. And your point, Chris, about burnout is a very important one, because we're seeing the nature of the topics that clients are bringing to coaching is heavy right now. And we're coaches, often we have great tools for taking care of ourselves and our well-being, but don't underestimate the impact of the work that we do and the impact that can have, the accumulation of that impact over time. It's really important that if we want to continue to do the great work that we do, that we make sure that we have good support in place.
Could not agree more. I just love what you're doing, Sarah.
Thank
I just
you.
came back from another mastermind that I was leading, and watching people in the room be supported by each other is so critical. And having a skilled expert like you in the space is just going to be like, I'm super excited. I'd like to have this conversation and take it a little farther. Love what you're doing. Love what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. The coachingcatalyst.com is Sarah's website. If you would like some supervision and like to be part of what she's doing in one of her groups in a safe place where you can actually get the resources, the help, the structure, the heart maybe back in the game that you need, Sarah's your person. Sarah, it's a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chris.
All right, Group Coach Nation, you all know the drill. Do the work, get the results. I say this every time. We're not advocating 80, 100-hour crush it work weeks. You all know I work 12 to 14 hours. You need to have your heart engaged. You need to have space. You need to have life. And that's what Sarah's here talking about. So do the work to get the results. Just please do the right work. We'll have Sarah's contact info below and around. If you have any questions for her, reach out to us or her. We'll point you back to her in the right direction. All right. Talk soon, everybody. Have a great one.